Welcome to Japanese Shoe Channel. Today, I'm going to react to Philippines versus Thailand, why experts are angry at the Thailand and instead retire in the Philippines. Yeah, I went to Philippines several times and I observed many experts are retiring in the Philippines. I never went to Thailand, so I don't know about the Thailand. But let's see what's going on in this video because they're angry at Thailand. But before watching the video, please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to push the notification bell to not to miss my future videos. If you like the video, please share it to your friends and family members. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go.
With all of the new immigration requirements, particularly the financial and health insurance to retire in Thailand, many expats are considering or have already moved to the Philippines. In this video, we will discuss any unique procedures you had to go through as a retiree going to the Philippines. What major factors do retirees choose to spend their golden years in the Philippines? What are other advantages in comparison to your native country, or Thailand? What is the state of healthcare in the Philippines? And what advice do current or past retirees have for future retirees? Give us a thumbs up if you are looking forward to move or retire in Southeast Asia. Let's start with the good comments about the Philippines and why some expats are angry at Thailand. We will include some of the negatives you might face and how expats deal with them in the second half of this video. These are real people based on real comments.
Okay.
Good day. I had two shocks during the pandemic. I was caught outside the country by airport closures. My OA retirement visa expired, and no help from the government on this. I must start the application again from step one. I kept several million baht in bank accounts to self-insure my medical expenses, and paid most from my pocket. Apparently this is no longer an option. I am now 73 years old and have diabetes. So my shelf life here has expired. I applied for healthcare insurance, done 3 pages of blood tests, lung x-ray, stool sample, etc., and my tests all came back with very good results. So, the insurance company had no way to deny me. They offered me a policy with pre-existing conditions that disqualified almost everything. My friend laughed and told me that I was at least insured for a hangnail. So obviously no insurance for me here, and as self-insurer is now not recognized. I cannot get my OA visa back. Looks like I am now forced to have to sell my condo, etc. and move. When retirees figure out that someone in the government seems to be using this insurance to drive us out, selling is going to be a long process. Either way, I am facing a financial bath. I am now returning to close my bank accounts and put the condo up for sale. Am I bitter? Damn right I am. I am filing grievances with my home government on why we allow Thai citizens to work, buy land, and after 6 months get free healthcare for life. When the Thai government treats our citizens like beep. After all, my assets there are gone. I will take my story to social media in my country and recommend my fellow citizens vacation elsewhere. Worst thing is, I loved living in Thailand and was very happy with most things. And never had a problem with my local immigration office, as they got to know me. I have good Thai friends who always looked out for me and helped me with anything I needed. I am going to miss this, but will find it again in my new retirement country. When I pick one. It seems that most countries in Southeast Asia want retirees to come and input their pension funds into their economy. Also, I like your YouTube articles a lot. They are honest, objective, and on point.
So he watched
It is
YouTube as
dependent
well.
on where you live. Certain provinces in the countryside do, in fact, endure regular burnouts due to lack of electricity. Some don't occur as frequently as others. Fiber internet, LTE mobile, and extremely good infrastructure are available in the bigger cities, such as Manila, Cebu, and other major cities. By the way, you do not need to obtain a retirement visa to enter the Philippines, though it would be good if you did. With tourist visa extensions that allow to be completed in country, You may remain for up to 3 years on a single visit before jetting off to a nearby nation and starting your 3-year tourist visa over from the beginning. I know a lot of British, Australian, Scandinavian, American, and other EU expats who like their time in the Philippines, and I'm not alone. All you need is a standard tourist visa. I lived in the Philippines for 7 years and never had an issue. Your results, on the other hand, may differ.
Visiting the Philippines is made a lot easier because you can stay as long as you like on a simple tourist visa. Every 3 years, you'll have to travel out of the country and start the application procedure over. Renewing or extending your tourist visa will cost around $50 every 3 months. Vietnam, Thailand, and Cambodia all have the strictest visa policies in Asia.
The fact that our pensions in the Philippines are no longer frozen must be a major benefit for Britons.
Easier to stay.
I began receiving my pension here in Thailand in 2015 and have already lost around £40 a month.
I visited the Philippines many years ago and the country was in a bad state. However, based on conversations with friends who have just returned from the islands, the situation appears to have drastically improved, particularly on the larger islands. If you're single and things are still simple, it's worth a look. There is a growing realization among the Thai population that living in Thailand will become increasingly difficult if you cannot keep up with the country's escalating cost of living. It's not going to get any better, that's for sure.
So cost
Jump
of
or
living
get
is
pushed.
becoming higher.
Even while Thailand's financial restrictions aren't as onerous as some places, they'll nonetheless screen out risk takers. In the end, what are you doing here if you don't have the money? Thailand's standard of living is considerably greater than that of the Philippines in many ways, not the least of which is the weather, which sees at least 3 severe typhoons per year. My personal preference is to travel to Thailand because of the superior cuisine, accommodation, and friendliness. Hua Hin beaches are only a 2-hour drive from Bangkok, and if you're seeking a little excitement, Kanchanaburi is also only a 2-hour drive away. Thailand is the finest place in Asia to retire if you follow the rules. Many people have said the Thais do not want us here, and I agree with them. However, I believe it is because of the negative news we get in backpackers, Western scammers, criminals, and the like. It never ceases to amaze me how much the media emphasizes minor offenses perpetrated by petty criminals from the West. The Thai government's long-term goal, in my opinion, should be to turn Thailand into a posh vacation and retirement destination.
After living in Thailand for more than 30 years, I raised 2 adult children in Krabi. Then we moved to Chonburi, but that became overcrowded, and my Filipina wife and I decided to go to the Philippines. In the end, I was granted a probationary resident card and full access to PhilHealth. I'll be able to apply for a full residency after this year if I'm accepted. Thailand has better cuisine and a wider variety of fruits than Singapore. The flight to Thailand is quick and inexpensive, so we can travel whenever we like. As a retired man with health insurance and a paid-off property in the Philippines, it was a simple but a sad decision for me to relocate there. If you're missing a night out, check out Angeles City. My visits to the Philippines during the previous 3 decades must have totaled 50 or more times. For me, it's a welcome diversion from Thailand's routine, but it's not for everyone. Doing the regular daily activities, such as cooking and cleaning, is more difficult on the whole. To accomplish even the most basic tasks may be excruciatingly sluggish, and I've witnessed many Westerners lose their cool when confronted with this problem in the field. This might be an alternative to Thailand for some though.
Of course, everything is a matter of opinion. I despise Manila even more than I despise Bangkok. The islands are far more stunning than anything in Thailand. That goes without saying. The infrastructure is roughly on pace with Thailand. Overall, the people are pretty polite, and unlike in Thailand, you can actually have a meaningful conversation. And yes, I speak Thai. We've all had our fair share of insane politicians, including Duterte. On the plus side, unlike in Thailand, he was elected.
Cebu has a really homey feel to it for me. Even though I'm not a city person, it's a pleasure to live here. Cebu is a great place for newcomers to settle because it's close to all the government agencies you'll need to visit for paperwork. The cost of living in Cebu may be twice as expensive as in Zamboanga. According to my Zamboanga-born wife, we've considered relocating to Cebu, but we don't own a home there yet. We're considering buying a house on Cebu Island because the cost of housing there lowers dramatically once you leave the city for a few hours. The Philippines shopping is something you'll notice right away. Large retail centers and small street markets are the only options. And since the malls are enormous, you'll be visiting them quite a bit. More than 2 times the size of Mall of America may be found in Cebu, where there are many megamalls. The Zamboanga Mall in the Philippines is just a third the size of the Mall of America in Minneapolis.
About 2 years ago, my wife and I left the United States for the Philippines, where she could be closer to her family, and where we could live more comfortably in our retirement. We got rid of our house, and put the money into a custom-built house in CBO. It's a fantastic house that was custom-built for me, but I wish I'd known that ground outlets weren't standard. To be honest, the only issue I have is that I wish we had rented for the first year before we built, but don't tell my wife. I realized that seeing her family once a year is quite different from living here. Her family is very busy, and we don't see them very often. She quickly became bored and wished we had remained in the United States, so she could continue working. It's nearly impossible to find work in retail, or virtually anywhere else if you're over 35 years old here. However, despite my offer to help fund a small shop, she has no ambition to manage her own business, and would instead work for someone else. To retire in the Philippines, be sure that both you and your spouse agree on your retirement plans if you're married. There is a high cost of living here, and although we own our own house, my monthly expenditures for electricity, water, cable TV, homeowner's fee, and fiber optic internet are around $300. The cost of fiber optic internet has decreased after I signed a 2-year contract for 100 megabits per second. This is because I chose an expensive plan. My electric is probably too high, but my computer is on all the time in my workplace, where there is an AC unit. We have 2 split AC units that we utilize when the temperature rises during the night. I used to have a heat pump in Florida for my house, so it's about the same as my power cost now.
My fixed monthly income is around $1,850 as a US retiree with a little pension and a small social security payout. I occasionally do some online work that brings my monthly income up, so I'm not worried about money, which means I'm not on a super tight and constricting budget. I'm not interested in buying a condo since I don't want to be restricted to a specific region or even a single country. As a result, I don't have to shell out any money for utilities, property taxes, or legal costs. It's possible for me to go to Cambodia and conduct volunteer work in Siem Reap for a short time, and then return to the Philippines, where I might perhaps reside in a different location from where I left, at a very low cost for as long as I like. In my opinion, that is the finest choice, the ability to roam around freely and take in a new environment whenever the wind strikes. Since the middle of 2011, I've been living this way, and I've never looked back. Thailand's cuisine is better since it's fresher, more flavorful, safer, and more affordable. Thai immigration is a blunder. Drivers in Thailand are the polar opposite of those in the Philippines, as driving here carries the inherent risk of death. Thais are just interested in our money and do not want us in their country. Thais are vicious and will gut you like a pig if you misbehave. However, real estate development in Thailand is more up to date and offers greater value for money. The cost, strength, and stability of Wi-Fi have all improved dramatically in recent years. On to the Philippines. Developing countries such as the Philippines have a subpar infrastructure. Contrary to what was said previously, food isn't bad for you. Immigration is now much simpler and less expensive. In general, people are friendly and helpful. Overall, driving is significantly safer now. Wi-Fi is a pain in the butt. It's more fun to go island hopping. There are over 7,000 to choose from. Thailand is like something out of the Jetsons, whereas the Philippines is like something out of the Flintstones, sort of. Although I like both nations, Thailand's way of life appeals to me more.
Give this video a thumbs up if you are planning to retire in the Philippines or Thailand. This is the second part of the video, why expats favor Thailand over the Philippines.
I see, I understand. Oh, there's more.
My favorite thing about the Filipinos is their warmth and friendliness. When compared to Thai males, these guys are a lot nicer and curious about Westerners. As far as I'm concerned, the ladies in this country can be gorgeous and typically simpler to meet than the ordinary Thai lady. And they have much poorer standards of living. It's impossible to get married there since the Catholic Church has such a tight grip on the country, and divorce is outright forbidden. If I were single, the Filipinas would be the main attraction for me. Things are bad in terms of security, the cuisine there is poor, and essentials like fresh fruits and vegetables are hard to get by. However, some other imports are easier to find and cheaper. Overall, the nation has a more modern vibe and does not evoke images of a foreign planet as it does in Thailand. It's all one huge slum. It doesn't matter how lovely the area is if it has a high barbed wire or shattered glass barriers on top to deter burglars. Also, why is there no landscaping here? Thais are passionate about their gardens and floral arrangements. In the Philippines, they're all but non-existent. Even if someone were to pay me money, I'm not sure I could live in the Philippines.
There's no denying that circumstances aren't as good as they are in Thailand. Still, based on my own experience and what I've read recently, the infrastructure is really improving rather than deteriorating. The illegal drug market is considerably more tightly controlled than it was in the past. Their president is chosen by the people. Despite its high cost, internet access is becoming more affordable. There have been fewer burnouts in big cities, but there will always be a problem since there are so many islands. On the bright side, there are so many serene beaches because of the abundance of islands. I believe most people will agree that the food selection is more limited and bland in most regions, but this shouldn't be a problem in urban areas where most options are readily available. Hotels in Thailand are generally of a lower standard than those found elsewhere. However, recent improvements have been made due to the increased number of tourists. The biggest benefit for English speakers might be being able to communicate with other individuals and businesses. For many, this could mean the difference between success and failure. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, and while Vietnam or Cambodia may appeal to some, Thailand remains the top choice for the majority.
Away from the main cities, the road network, 3G and 4G technologies, as well as the impending 5G, are considered superior to those of the United Kingdom and the United States. While sitting on the Mekong River's banks, I had a 5-bar Thai signal on my phone. Try that on the Thames in rural Oxfordshire or the Mississippi. The host nation sets its immigration policies. It's perfectly okay with me if the rules are followed. Using TOT's fiber internet, I'm able to stream Netflix on 3 different devices simultaneously. Thailand, like the Philippines, is deeply xenophobic, as are most of the Asian countries. Actually, the United Kingdom isn't much better. Unless you're rich like Singapore or Hong Kong's residents, and you believe Thai immigration law is difficult to navigate, try the immigration laws of one of those 2 countries before you decide otherwise. The cost of living in the Philippines is lower, yet you will be surrounded by impoverishment no matter where you go. I believe that the wealthy are taking advantage of the less fortunate. Once again, no thanks after spending many months in Panama. We were being pursued down the street by beggars. As we ate, people kept sticking their hands in our meal and demanding more. That's something no one wants.
If you have a chronic health issue that needs emergency treatment, most of my expat friends strongly advise against coming to the Philippines. There's no 911 or ambulance service in most locations. You'd also be confined to the nation's largest cities at most. My current doctors in New York received their medical training at Manila facilities and agreed with my findings. Those who have chronic illnesses that must be treated immediately should 1. Reside in a care facility with medically trained employees for those who care about their elderly. Many can be hired in the Philippines, where medical care is far less expensive than in the United States. 2. In any city in the world, be next to an EMS-equipped hospital because of heavy traffic. 3. Do not anticipate immediately EMS like the ones they have in the United States, which also can be not so immediate. It's more challenging to get EMS in rural regions because of the distance. Although this would only apply to a very small percentage of people, if you have a medical condition that puts your future health in jeopardy, you may be able to hire a specially trained registered nurse to work as a live-in household employee. Many nations, such as the Philippines, charge less for health insurance than the United States. In Manila, a registered nurse may expect to make $300 a month on average.
California is where I call home. I know people born and raised in the Philippines but have chosen to live in the United States and have no desire to return. That's for a variety of economic reasons. They will never return to working for wages that are less than half of what they are earning now. Ever. For a job that pays an average of $3,600 a year in the Philippines, my wife's sister makes $80,000 a year doing a similar job. On the other hand, my social security is the same wherever I go because I'm a retiree. Filipino retirees who worked in the United States and returned to the Philippines with a comfortable pension and savings are common as well. Also, Jollibees can be found in the Golden State, so they won't have to return. However, if that is your goal to live there, go for it.
If you are in good health and still mobile, retirement in the Philippines may be a good option. If you are 80ish and ailing, and would still prefer to live to be in your upper 90s, you should return to the United States. But, if you are like me and believe that 85s is a good enough age to have lived, I don't think you would worry as much about a decent healthcare system. However, that is just my opinion.
Give us a thumbs up if you are planning to retire in the Philippines or Thailand. The Philippines provides an appealing
I
offer with a special
understand.
retirement
So
resident visa known
they are
as
saying about
SRRV. The SRRV is a lifelong visa, and its holders are free from the Bureau of Immigration
but
Restrictions.
what
Yes,
angle
you
at
heard that correctly.
Thailand?
The special retirement resident visa in the
So
Philippines
they're just
allows you to stay
saying that
indefinitely with multiple entries
living
or exit
cost in Thailand
privileges.
is higher than
SRRV holders can
Philippines
work,
and,
study, or invest in the
cuisines are
Philippines with a yearly charge of 360 US
good
dollars.
in
This is
Thailand.
more appealing for expats who do not want
Compared
the
to
Thai 90-day
Philippines.
reporting and hassle annual extension. What do you think about retiring in the Philippines? Would you retire or move to which country? Leave your comments below, and please tell us why you chose that country over the other.
I see.
If you want to watch more videos about living or retiring in Southeast Asia,
I see. I got it. But I still choose Philippines because I'm not familiar with Thailand. That's all. Today's video is it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and push the notification bell not to miss my future videos. If you like the video, please share it to your friends and family members. Thanks for watching, and please leave comment below. Thanks for watching. See you again. Bye bye.